Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you. Hello! And today we're going to be taking a look at the Corsair 760T. But this is the full proper review, not going to be messing around or anything with this one. Yeah, right, okay. So, we've got all the hardware in there, it's built, we're going to have a look round it, look at the specs, you know, all the options and stuff that you get. And then I am going to try and gather my thoughts enough to give you a pretty meaty conclusion on it. Now yeah, I really do need to get on with it. The only time that we may kind of change the look slightly is when I tip it over, but I'll kind of explain things to you in a little minute. But I'm going to try and follow the normal kind of pattern as I do with these case reviews. And yeah, I'm going to be quiet and move on. Okay then peeps, I'm going to try and do a lot of this without the studio lights for a little bit more contrast. Obviously we've got the white, we've got the new grey walls, and we've obviously got the darker work surfaces. So we're just going to see how things go. But what I am going to do right at the very beginning, just so that we've got something to talk about, is I'm going to turn the power button on. That's another reason why I've not got the blinding bright studio lights on. I can turn the actual office lights off for you just so that you can see, but this will flash as well because this is the hard drive activity light. Oh, I have seen it flash. Anyway, right, is it still on post? Yeah, it's still spinning around on post at the moment. So we've got power button and a reset button. As you can see now, the reset button is starting to flash because that's a hard drive activity light, but you can see the power light is quite nicely on there. We've got two USB 3s, two USB 2s, and then we've got a headphone microphone, and then we've got a fan speed button. Now you can press this and there's two options. And the easiest way for me to show you the two options, if we look at the fans on the front there, if I press it, you can see it's just got a little bit brighter. If I press it again, it gets slightly dimmer. So there's two fan speed options with that button. It's actually powered inside with a SATA power connector, and there are 4 connections on the end of it, so you can wire up 4 fans to it, or you can use fan splitters and stuff like that. If we move up, now it's just the first look at it, there's this roof panel. Now it is removable, and on the back of said removable panel there are magnets that hold it all in place, and they are all over the place. It wasn't sitting perfectly flat before because I've got the screws in here for our AIO in the roof, which we'll talk about in a minute. But just so that you're aware, there are grommets in there, rubber grommets in there for you to fit a 320mm fans in the roof. You can swap these rubber grommets out to do 340mm fans should you wish. And the spacings are correct with the 120s, that you can get a 360mm rad in the roof because they're 15mm spacings. But it also means that you can get up to a 420mm radiator, that's 140mm fans. And the 140mm mounts are slightly elongated towards the outside, which means that it will accommodate both 15 and 20mm spacing radiators. That's quite crucial when you're talking AIOs, but it's also just as crucial with the radiators because there doesn't seem to be an industry standard at the moment. But yes, that is the roof. You can see it's not quite just like little slots. It's nice little rectangles. I'll zoom you in a bit just so that you can have a slightly better look. Hopefully the camera will sort itself. There we go. But they're slightly more elongated than they look in the shot there because of the angle that we're going from with the camera. Anyway, what I am going to do is turn the case off. I'm going to put the roof panel back on as best as I can, and we can move on. Right, so we're still at the front, but I just wanted to move the camera back ever so slightly just so that we can give you a better look really. Now there is an optical bay blank at the top here. Now I will say straight from the very get-go, and I have said this to Corsair already, there is no blank for you to just cover this up with. Now I would like to think that Corsair might make these available for anyone that wants them to send out an extra blank, because it's nice to have the optical bay that you can fit behind and then it's all tool free and it's kind of stealthed, but it would also be nice if we could just have a blank cover in there. It's also nice to see that it is just normal kind of width 5¼ inch bays and not the kind of elongated stuff that we've got used to with some of the Obsidian cases. If we slide down a little bit, there's a large mesh area down the front, and you can do the magic push and release onto the fans. Now if you have a look there, you can see that we have got some AF clear frosted bladed 140mm fans. Sometimes with the front of the case, I'm just looking to grab a 120mm fan quick. Sometimes with the front of the cases it can be a bit deceiving, but this is a 120, so they are 140mm fans in there. Like I said, they are LED. If we turn the computer on, you can see now a lot of people instantly start going on. I've seen it so much about swastikas. Now I can understand what you're saying, Pete's, but Jesus, Mary and Joseph, this is practically an industry standard LED layout. If you have the ones with the LEDs all the way around the outside, then they become expensive. And also, when you do turn the fan speeds down, the LEDs get so dim it's ridiculous. So it's kind of a mixture of both worlds. If you want to see an old kind of religious stroke military sign, then you know what I mean, you crack on. But to me, that's just an LED fan. Anyway, so we've taken the front panel off. Now it has got some very fine, I'm going to say, plasticky type mesh over the larger mesh to act as a dust filter. It doesn't appear to be the densest dust filter in the world, but then that does mean that it should be slightly better airflow. But if you do get dust problems, because obviously I can't test dust problems short of throwing a handful of flour in the front, you could always put some dust filters on the other side because there is enough room. Talking to the 140s in the front, there is enough room and the mounts there to put 120s there in the front if you wish, but that's also something we'll come back to and talk about a little bit later. Okay then, so spun round to the back panel. At the top, you can see we have this slightly open mesh area. Now this is going to be a pretty good place for any kind of convected kind of like heat rising to exhaust out the back. Well, unless you're starting to push air in through the back this way, depending on how you end up setting your fans up. But it's a nice place for the air to kind of, you know, move out the back. We can see that we've got an AIO in the back there at the minute, but we'll come back to that. Rear fan, it comes with 140 airflow. It's not LED. I've said this in the past with some of the Corsair ones. I understand that some people don't like to have the fans light up at the back so that they can so it doesn't all light up the wall, but I have to admit I'd actually like it to be an LED fan as well. We have graphics card in here, but we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 expansion slots. There's a massive amount of expansion slots there. The normal 7, and I've just realised I didn't move the camera down, so we'll do it again. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 expansion slots. There are 2 grommets here which are metal, but they can be removed if you did want to put some external water cooling hoses outside. Power supply on the bottom can obviously be fitted both ways because it doesn't matter which way you do it. But if you were to put it face down, there is a dust filter for your power supply. Mine is facing up because that's just my own personal favoured way of doing it. Slightly strange approach to show you the case feet, because they're quite angular, but they do raise the case a fair amount up off of the, off of the desk, and it's actually an inch exactly, so that's blatantly the way they've done it. But to those of you in Europe, you're looking at about 30mm off of your desk. That's going to be able to do. You can see the slidey mount here for your power supply. Now, something that came up when I did the first look video is if we take the hard drives out, people were saying about this not having a dust filter. I personally don't see it as being a massive problem, so I don't actually imagine a lot of people to use this as an intake. It's not, you know, very needed, to be honest. If you want one, you can get magnetic ones that will be able to clip around the outside, and they're, you know, less than a pint normally. Also, if you want to remove the hard drives, you don't actually have to remove the plastic carrier that's on the other side. So the only time you would need a dust filter would be if you wanted to attach a fan to it. If you you don't want to attach a fan to it, you can leave the plastic carrier on the other side, but still actually remove the hard drive cages. There are two, but also the one in the on this side, because of the way that the feet are, it does mean that you don't get access to another fan there, which means we've got no kind of like water cooling options in the floor. But again, I don't particularly see that as being too much of a problem. Going back to the feet again, they do have these rubber feet. I would say personally though, it would have been nicer if these were maybe a bit bigger, just so that you know, there was more kind of stiction on the case, and maybe a little bit thicker as well. But I am being properly picky about that. Okay then, so our first look at a side panel. Now this side panel is the back side panel. Now this black section is just black. You've got the door on the front, and the doors are magnetic. There's magnetic contact points on either end, which is why when it closes it does snap in place. And there's a fair amount of cables on the other side of this, and yet as you can see it really is that easy. You don't even really have to push to close the door, it drags itself in. So you can open and close the door very easily. As you can see, the door is on hinges, and also once you open it a little bit, what you can do is remove the side panel altogether. So looking at it that way, you can see that it is black plastic. You've got the white bits on the outside. So eternal test for a side panel is to give it a bit of a you know, kind of a tweak. Now a lot of people were going, oh, it's going to be so flimsy, it's going to be plastic. Meh, 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 meh. Well, these top bits do feel like they've put metal, powder coated metal over the top. But I'm going to be honest with you peeps, for the case around this price, I have felt side panels that have flexed more on other brands. So as far as it being, you know, flimsy, there's a fair amount of weight to that considering, you know, what it's made out of, and it doesn't feel cheap or flimsy at all. Now what I am going to do is move the camera so that we can get a better look around the back panel, or under it. Okay, so we'll start at the top. Now you can see that the motherboard tray is slightly more recessed from the back view than what it is there at the minute. In fact, what I might do, just looking as we're doing that there, yeah, that helped a bit. Okay, so you can see that the motherboard is slightly more recessed. You've got a large cutout area here for the motherboard back tray, so that you can, you know, get in there and get your back plates on, and you're really not going to have any problems whatsoever. There are many of these little zip tie clamp points all scattered around the back, so you can get pretty much anything. They are everywhere, look. They're scattered all over the place, so you can make the rig very tidy if you want. Down the bottom of the motherboard tray and all down the side there are grommets, but up in this top section you can see that you get access, and this is a really nice little way, because it actually helps things with your roof fans if you want to run them. Now what I am going to say is, if we go down here, you can see here this is the SATA power that I've got plugged in for the fan controller, which does, you know, your fans. We've got two LEDs plugged in, two fans plugged in up here, which are the front panel fans, and the other two connectors come along the top here. One is powering the rear fan, the other one is actually just here. Now I would say, you know, personally, that you've got your rear fan and maybe a roof, you know, exhaust fan should you want to run it. With the I'm running a H105 in there, which we'll see in a minute, or the Corsair H100. You're going to want to power the fans from a separate source anyway, and that's what this collection of cables is down here. We've got some Molexes down here, and then we've got this connector is actually the pump connector, wired direct to the power supply for the H105, and then the other four fans, as you'll see in a minute, that I've got in there, all on fan speed reducers, but again running off of a Molex. Now I've not made any great attempts to cable manage this, and you can see that this isn't all clipped down. I could do a lot more to try and make this tidy, yet the side panel went on really easily when I showed you earlier, and that's because you've got a good 30-35 millimeters of cable management space down here. There really is ample room. And to be fair, these may be flat cables and people think that they take up less room, but when you get bends in them, and especially this 24 pin one here, they can be an absolute nightmare. So that just goes to show you that, like I said, there is acres of room back there. Also from the back, although we'll see it more on the other side in a minute, you can see that there's mounts for 4 solid state drives in the lovely little Corsair, you know, release ones. To remove them, you can just pull the little tab down and then slide them out, or they can be removed altogether. I've actually got cables going up in front of them, so it's a bit of a pain, but you can release a little clip here and take it out altogether should you wish. This little cutout here gives you access to be able to put your SATA power cables and your data cables through to some SATA drives on the other side. Every time I've seen that kind of gap from Corsair though, I've always wished that there was a blanking plate that came with it that you could fit from the other side. Not necessarily a grommet, but just a bit of plastic or maybe even a bit of steel that just kind of push fit into place to block that off. Because I know a lot of people aren't going to want to run both of the hard drive cages down there and probably going to end up wanting to remove them. So for me, I think that would have been, just a nice option again, that they could have added that to give people that infinite options that I keep saying about, to keep their rigs a little bit tidier. But that really is our look at the back panel. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the door on and then I'm going to spin the case around so we can get our first look at the business end of the case. Right then peeps, so the first look at the, well I suppose we did look at it at the beginning, but the business end of the case. Now, something else that come up in the first look was people moaning and kind of picking fault in the fact that this window is so big and that it's plastic and that it might get scratched, because there's so many other cases out there that don't have plastic windows, obviously, and obviously plastic windows can get scratched no matter what. Now, the best way that I can kind of say to you about this is it's a normal thing. Your monitor can get scratched. If you've got a window, it can get scratched. It's just one of those things. You have to look after your stuff. But if you're a complete klutz and do end up scratching your case up, there are quite a few options out there. All of the people that use acrylic and stuff in modding will know that you can get a set of polishes, and it's 3 different grades. It goes from coarse to take away big kind of deep scratches up to like a fine, almost just like a cream to take the final polish out. So you can get the scratches out easy. If you get really stuck and you don't want to buy one of those kits, although for the 3 bottles, I think it's about 10 or 15 pounds, and a lot of the good modding sites should have them. I've still got some of mine from years ago, but you can even try something like normal T-cut. Like that you use on your car. Well, to get the scratches off of a windscreen, I use T-cut for that. You can use T-cut for this. It may need a bit of a polish afterwards, but it will take the worst of your things up. But one thing I will say about it being so big is, especially at the moment where it's still quite new and I've not had the protective plastic off of it very long, is it is a total and utter fucking dust magnet. Obviously over time that will reduce. It's just a little bit still, got some static charge at the minute. That will reduce. But personally, I think that window, that design is a fucking masterstroke. I love it. It's a shame Corsair were going to send me some LEDs for inside so I could light stuff up better. But where I'm having to film this ahead of time because I've got some special little stuff coming for you a little bit later on, make sure you tune in to the end. I'm having to film this a lot ahead of time. I'm like 10 days before NDA that I'm filming this, and then I've got to strip this all down and do other stuff with it. Anyway, so what we're going to do is same with the other side. The door, pop the door off, and we'll bring it out. You can see that the acrylic does go right into the edge. We can take the window off again. It's a joy. It really is. It's a huge, nice, big window. These bits are metal, as I said to you before, powder coated, and again we'll give it the flex test, and it's just as sturdy and as rigid as the other side. So we're going to put the door down, out of the way, out of it, and then we have a look at the inside. So where should we start? What we'll do is we'll start at the bottom, and then I might have to start laying the case down, and you know, just so I can give you a better look. But what I will do is we'll bring you in and look down, and we will start from there. Now what you can see here, just for the eagle-eyed amongst you, you can see that there's a lot of black here. There's a lot of black on the inside, but the floor and the roof are still white, and that's because it's the floor is one piece, and obviously if you want the white to show on the outside, the inside is then going to be white as well. The roof is very much the same. Roof is white, that means the roof is white on the inside. So the rest of it is all black in there. You've got 6 hard drive bays here, which are tool free. You can just, you know, clip your normal mechanical drives in. You will have to screw solid state drives in if you want to do it. They will take solid state drives, but obviously you've got the options to put your solid state drives on this side. You can remove this cage if you want and put it on top of here. You can remove both of them. They have got little plastic mounts on the bottom with 4 screws, and you can remove everything if you want as well. So you can either remove just the cages, you can remove the plastic mounts and take it all out, or you can stack them up and have them up there if you wanted. Obviously having them down in the floor gives you a slightly clearer path for your airflow, and that would be probably the way I'd do it. I would probably, if it was me personally, I would probably remove this one if I needed these mechanical bays. If I didn't, rip it all out, get a nice clear airflow in from the front of your case in, especially if you're running dual graphics cards and stuff, it'd be an absolute dream. So you can do that. We've got the 9 bays up the side, but it's not, if you have a look here, we've not got extra motherboard mounts slightly further down for XL80X. So really all this case allows you is, for argument's sake, with the Rampage, you can get a dual or a triple slot graphics card in the bottom, or a dual slot graphics card if you're going to run triple SLI, and then you've still got a spare slot in the bottom for maybe something like your NZXT lights if you want them, because they clip in to these backs, or for those of you that use the extra USB 2 or USB 3 things that you can get with some motherboards. So I'm just having a look round now. We can see a good bit about the way it sits with these feet. You can see how far off the floor it is. There's a fair amount of room underneath. You're not going to worry about the case being suffocated if you did want to use that bottom intake. If we move up, you can see the solid state drive mounts from this side. I've purposely mounted them with the labels showing this way. That to me is the way I think I should do it. I did see a Corsair video that they used, I can't remember the guy's name, but there was a Corsair video where he built a 760T up, and then he had the label around the other side, and it's just like, why would you do that? You're going to be looking in this side of your case, you're going to want to see that label. So give the man a slap on the wrist. That is the way that those SSD bays should be used. Now, what I will say is I need to get my doodah again. This is the GTX 780 Ti Matrix. Big, fat, huge graphics card. But we've got probably, let's have a look. I'd say we've got 50mm of room between the outside of this big, fat graphics card and the outside of the case. Now, essentially, where there's a 140mm rear exhaust fan up here, that means pretty much every air cooler on the market is going to fit into that case. Even the real big, giant, mean, Fandango, big fat boys, they are going to go in there because this case has got some girth. So we can get that in there. Also, that means with a big graphics card like this, a nice big wide graphics card like this, it still means that even for the, you know, the not particularly tidy among us, we're going to be able to put our PCI Express cables into the graphics card, and it's not going to rub on the side panel. As we move up, I really need to start moving the case around for you now, so that we can get a better look at the AIO and the radiator options in the roof. But I guess while we're here, what we'll do is we'll talk about the tool-free optical bays that you can have in here, and they just slip and slide in all lovely bubbly. But I'm going to move the camera because I want to focus on some other things for you now, and at this present moment in time you can't see it. Okay then peeps, so we're going to look up towards the roof of the case and talk about radiator options, AIO support and all that kind of stuff. This is a H105. This is quite a thick radiator, it's 38mm thick. Now, we're going to round that up to 40 because we're boys and we generally like to say things are ever so slightly bigger than they really are. But anyway, so we've got a 40mm thick rad and then we've got two 25mm thick fans. So that's 90mm in total. But the heatsink on the Rampage Extreme sits ever so slightly further down than the top of the motherboard. Just underneath here is the 8-pin and it's completely covered and it's right underneath this fan. Now, one thing I will say is I've got it in there. It was a bit of an arse. It was extremely tight. That's what she said, but I managed to get it in there. So if your motherboard, the heatsink isn't right at the very top, then you'll probably be able to get away with this. I think the H105 in push-pull is going to be the only time that you're going to get to a point where you're going to be hitting the 8-pin, but it will go in there. But just to be very, very clear, say for argument's sake you have this motherboard. Now this is the Asus P9X79 Pro. The Rampage Extreme motherboard, if you imagine it, it hasn't got this sticky outy silver bit on. So the 8-pin is covered up and we've currently gone over that point. So this motherboard wouldn't work. It was actually the one I tried in the case first. So I'd have to have, if I wanted to run this, I'd have to have cut that top section of heatsink off. So if you have a look at your motherboard, I know I'll end up getting a million people in the comments, but I'm not going to be able to give you yes or no's on every motherboard in existence. Tom, does this fit? Tom, does that fit? So here's this simple idiot's guide to can you get H105 push-pull with your board. If your MOSFET heatsink sits below the top of your motherboard, so like here, 5 or 10mm, then yes, you'll be able to. If like this board, it comes up level with the top of your motherboard or very near the top, then no, it won't fit. And that's about as simple as I can make it. If you haven't bought the board yet, Google it, have a look. It's not going to be difficult to work out. But if your motherboard does go, or your heatsink does go to the very top of your motherboard, because of the spacing, it does mean you'll be able to get a 60mm thick radiator in the roof and a single set of fans. Again, you still might have to get a little bit artistic with the way that you do your 8-pin wiring because it may end up going into said fan. But as long as you take your time, plan your build, and don't just smash it in there and expect everything to fit first time, you'll be able to get away with it. When I do these builds for reviews, you'll be amazed how many times bits are coming in and out because I'm rerouting cables or making sure something is been pushed around a certain way. Hell, sometimes I even have to put cables underneath the motherboard and take all the motherboard out again and poke things up through the heatsink cutout at the back just to make sure that I can get things like rads fitted in the roof. So 85mm is the amount of room that I'm going to say that we've got for, you know, the majority of motherboards. If you want to get artistic with the H105, then you just need to make sure you have a little bit more room. So 60mm thick rad and a single set of fans, you'll easily be able to get a 30mm rad in the roof and two sets of fans because that's 80. Once you start going beyond that point, it's going to be a little bit difficult. So 360mm length radiator, 60mm thick, single set of fans, 420mm radiator in the roof, single set of fans, and obviously you can go down smaller from that point onwards. It does also mean that because the H105 fits in the roof ever so slightly, just about, with push-pull, that you can also get the H100i in the roof, push-pull. It does also mean the H110 you can get in the roof push-pull. But just for the sake of being fair, because of the 140mm mounts in the roof, it does also mean that things like the Kraken X60 and X40 can also be bounced up in the roof in push-pull as well if you wanted. And there's obviously a gazillion other brands out there, but you should have all the information you could possibly need about putting rads in the roof of the case now. What I'm going to do though is I'm now just going to ever so quickly just remove the two hard drive bays, and then we're going to talk about stuff in the front. Okay then peeps, so as you can see I've removed the bottom two hard drive mounts here. Very simple, 6 screws because there's only 2 in the front one, and then that kind of little clips into the front, and then it exposes our fans in the front. Obviously comes fitted with 240 mils. Now the fans do look like they're quite wide here, and you wouldn't be able to get a radiator in, but there are separate mounts, and I mean a lot of mounts as well, so that you can move these fans about so they will line up with pretty much any 280 mil radiator, so 240 millimeter fans. But there is also the mounts here so that you can get a 240 millimeter radiator in the front, and there's also a cavernous amount of room. And now if I measure this to the edge of the cables on the graphics card that we've got here, we're looking at 170 mil. So essentially, just to put things into context, you can have a set of fans on the outside, an 80 mil radiator, and then easily get another set of fans on the inside. If you wanted to run the hard drive bay in the this position, so that you could still have some mechanical bays here but have a radiator in the front, then you'd be looking at about 110 mil. So if it's 110 mil and you've got a set of fans on the outside, an 80 mil radiator, and then another 25 mil, which would be 105 mil, it would still mean that you could get an 80 mil thick radiator in the front, in push-pull, and still be able to have your mechanical hard drive mount in there. So it means that you can have a 360 in the roof, or a 420 in the roof, up to 60 mil thick with a single set of fans. And in the front, you can have a 280 or a 240 in the front with 2 sets of fans, and that radiator could be up to 80 millimeters thick. And I think for a case at this price point, and it's not exactly a massive case, I think that's a fair amount of water cooling power, and it all manages to do it while looking so damn good. There's a secret hidden bit at the end. Hey peeps, congratulations on making the conclusion. Now, I have got a big grin on my face, but I have had to think long and hard about how I wanted to score this, because I don't mind admitting it, I fucking love this case. It's brilliant. I'd almost go as far as to say is recently, especially price-wise and everything as well, it's probably the, you know, there with the best cases that Corsair have ever made, if not the best case. I'm obviously a big fan of the 540 Air. I really like that case. Pretty brave design, but I really like it. This, it's just kind of, Corsair are just constantly working away, trying to perfect their designs for people. And this with, you know, the radiator support and everything, it's just an undoubted gold award winner. I've got a couple of little picky points though, and it is me being very picky, but I have to bring them up because otherwise the trolls will just go, where the mechanical bay goes here, and you have the cutout in the motherboard tray, I think if you're not going to use that, I think there should be a black plastic kind of little push over clip thing that goes over that. It would be so simple to manufacture something that could just be pushed into that gap and cover it up like a little blank, and it would cost next to nothing to produce, and it would have been nice to have got that in the box. The other thing that I think that we should have got is an extra blank for the front panel. I think the optical bay flap is brilliant, include that in the box, but there should just be 3 normal blanks in the front of that case, you know, for people that might not want to put a you know, slot optical drive in there or something. And for the price of those, you know, you might be talking like $2 or $3 extra. It probably wouldn't be that you know, that expensive for the, you know, the fact that they're going to be plastic. But I think that would have really helped matters. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to say that this bottom fan should have had a dust filter for it as well. But at the end of the day, you are going to need things that people are going to need to kind of use and mod, you know, add little tweaks to themselves. That's all well and good. But I think those 2 kind of little bits of plastic, that's, you know, fair enough. And there's no kind of distinguishable like extra like Bosch dust filters anywhere else. I know they have got them in the front, but so I can understand why they've not bothered with the floor. I'd probably blank the floor off anyway. But yeah, the long and short of it is, other than that, I really like it. I'm not quite sure. This has really tickled me Now, there's been another white case that I reviewed recently that I really liked as well. And that was mainly because it didn't have optical bays, but this has kind of grabbed me in an entirely different way. And it's very difficult for me to explain, other than, I think the only way I'm going to be able to explain it is I do this stuff because I have an active kind of interest in it. I really do have a passion for hardware. I'm not like a gamer like a lot of you that just will sit there for, you know, like days upon end, not showering, living off of high energy drinks and stuff and just playing games. My thing is about the hardware, trying to make it look pretty and imagining what I can do with it and stuff like that, because a lot of it I kind of understand the engineering and the design processes as well because of my education and work background. So I personally like, you know, things from a slightly different aspect to other people, and this for me has been one of those ones that I was actually like a kid at Christmas, not only when it arrived, but when I was building this case I was actually like skipping and dancing around the office. And I don't mean, oh, it's because I was building this, it's because it was actually a pleasurable experience. I enjoyed doing it, and it's not very often that you'll get a product like that and it affects me or maybe you in that way. I actually got excited about it. But yeah, and for the money, it delivers on so many different levels. There's massive water cooling support. Just make sure that you go careful about that motherboard thing if you want to use a H105. But hopefully I've explained that you can get push-pull, and if you want, you can get 60mm thick rad in the roof with a single set of fans. You get a push-pull with a monster rad in the front. You've got great build quality. You've got a fan controller. Yeah, it's only a basic one, but it's still, do you know what I mean? There's still a nice little click, so you can have, you know, like your gaming version, and then you can flick it down for maybe night use or films and stuff like that. 4 SSDs, 6 hard drives, plenty of fan options in the front, plenty of fan options in the roof, 120 to 140 in the back, the hinges, the big windows. There's just not a lot that I can think of that you could really ask for more. And the black and white about it is also making me, and maybe this is why I like it, but it's just, again, it's making me think of things that I can do with it for myself. Maybe I could do an Orca 2 with it. Who knows? Even down to, you know, little things like the magnetic cover for the roof. This case really has kind of set my mind alight with things that I want to do and, you know, may do going forward, to the point that I may even end up doing maybe like a water cooling or a modding guide with it. We've definitely got things that me are going to be doing with this going forward. And it's definitely something that you need to keep an eye on, and maybe even, you know, look to the end of the video, because like I said, I'm just thoroughly excited about it, and I think you're going to like it as well. So if you're in the market for a new case, maybe you want to use optical reservoir for your water cooling. If you do use optical reservoir for your water cooling, just remember that that radiator does go right into the front there. So you're going to have to be you're going to have to keep that in mind, because some of the reses, especially the double ones, can be quite big. So you're going to have to be fairly careful with that. But yeah, I just, big grins. It's going to be mega dings when we finish this video, let's put it that way. Yeah, it's one of those ones. I know I've spoken a lot, but I'm actually really struggling to make much sense. It's got me kind of in a lost for words kind of sense. So for 125 quid, if you want to get yourself a white case that's going to be cool, calm, collected, show off your kit lovely, and if you do get it, then you're probably going to want to invest in some white LEDs to go inside the case as well, to really make everything inside your rig pop. I really can't think of much better. Huge window, it's going to show off your investment with all your graphics cards, whatever. It's fucking awesome. I can't really say much more without beating around the bush and just not making a lot of sense. So I'm going to be quiet. This is Tiny Tom Logan with the Gold Award winning Corsair 760T out. Indeed, there is a very quick hidden bit at the end. I've done a custom 760 already. So if you want to click on the link and go to the OC3D website, and it's a different link to the review one that was here before, it's the competition entry link, you can enter to win this. And thanks to Corsair, the shipping is worldwide, so it doesn't matter where you are. You're not going to have to pay to have it sent to you or anything like that. All you've got to do is go and enter, and it's one of the simple clicky, likey, Facebooky, bollocky type things. We have got some other prizes as well. And actually, I want to show you the other one. Yeah, because I kind of did two. Kind of, yeah. Now, they are very slightly different, and I do mean very slightly different, very subtle differences. This one is going to be my GPU test rig. That's going to be getting used in a lot of videos going forward. We're going to send one out for competition, so you can have one that's very, very similar to my one, and will be getting used in a lot of other videos. So it's the type of design that's going to get seen a fucking shitload, but you'll have your own, very own personal one. And like I said, they are ever so slightly different. They are still unique, but you'll still have one very similar to the one that I end up using in all the videos and everything. So it's your chance to kind of get hold of something that people may end up even confusing with the one that I use, because they're obviously very, very unique, but you're going to have one that's ever so slightly different. It all comes down to different types of striping around the logos and the reflectivey type parts. We have purposely kept them, you know, very, very similar, but at the same time unique, so you do get your own custom sort of style one. Now obviously the case has only just come out today. We actually don't think that there's going to be any stock in the UK for a little while either, like maybe the end of April. So considering no one can actually buy these yet, you could have a custom one within about a week of them even getting in the shops. So you've got a chance for some serious e-peen with your friends. So get clicking on that link. And it wouldn't hurt you if you wanted to go on the forums and say happy birthday either. But anyways, this is me trying to give something back to you lot. So I'm just going to shut up now. Click on the link, enter the compo.